Hello, hello. Let me make sure that I am live on the Facebook group and then we'll go ahead and get started. So excited for day 3. Awesome. So I'm live. Um, if you are here, welcome to day 3 of the Back to School Automation Bootcamp. If you missed us for day 1 on Friday or day 2 yesterday, you do have access to the replays for the next week. So that access will end on Friday, August 4th, and you can always do the homework for day 1, day 2, and then today to be entered to win in the grand prize at the end of this challenge, which is a free ride scholarship to the life-changing Automate Your Classroom course. Even if you're just now getting started with us, you can still hop on that. If you're joining us live, drop in the comments, put day 3, or if you're watching the replay, make sure to type in replay so that we know that you are here. Again, if you are catching those replays, I don't want you to feel like you are behind. You still have time to do what you need to do to begin automating for back to school. So I want to do a little recap. If you're here, just drop in the chat, say day 3. If you're watching the replay, type in replay. So day 1, we went over the first thing I recommend everybody automate, which is your procedures and routines. And we dove into creating SOPs. And I gave you a starting point with some classroom SOPs in an editable document. And then we went over how to create automated SOPs for your classroom tech stuff with Tango, which is a free extension. Yesterday, we went over artificial intelligence, ways to use it in the classroom, and then the prep prompt framework for getting those best responses on ChatGPT. I also shared with you 3 other automation plug and play artificial intelligence tools you could use, but ultimately, I think learning ChatGPT and how to use it in your workflow is definitely the best and most efficient way. So I don't see anybody here in the chat, but if you're here, just pop in. I know it is Sunday and it is 3 o'clock, so you're probably going to catch the replay later. Today, we are going to go into automating and systemizing your workflow. So during today's session, we're going to explore what flow looks like in the context of teaching, how it benefits not only our professional lives, but it also enhances our students' learning experiences. We're going to identify some common flow blockers and discuss strategies to overcome them, ensuring that we can be in that flow state more often, allowing us to feel our best inside and outside of the classroom. But achieving flow, it's not about random luck. It's about systemizing our automation workflow. So Kristen said, I'm here gearing up for a so thanks, Kristen, for hopping in. If you're just now joining us live, be sure to put day 3 in the chat. But achieving flow is not about that random luck. It's about systemizing our automation workflow. And we're going to dive into the significance of developing personalized workflow systems tailored to our teaching styles, our unique classrooms, and our preferences. As educators, I'll say it till the cows come home. We take on numerous responsibilities and we are constantly juggling multiple tasks. It's not a wonder that our minds can become cluttered with an overwhelming number of mental to-dos. Today, I want us to explore how systemizing our workflow can really help us to clear that cognitive burden and then allow us to be more present and more focused on what truly matters most. So when we say flow, what do you think of? Drop it in the comments, share it out. What do you think of when you hear the word flow? Hey, Gigi, so glad that you're joining us today. When you hear the word flow, tell me, what do you think of? What do you think of? When I think of flow, I think about effortless, like effortlessness. It's just flowing, it's just going. And Gigi says, one step to another. Somebody said, working without distractions. Kristen said, easily moving from one thing probably to another. Right. So there's a lot of research to back it up, but flow is one of the antidotes to burnout and it actively combats that burnout. So just imagine this. 2 teachers sit together in the same school. They're working on similar tasks. Both have been working in the school since their student teaching, and they've been with the school for 13 years. Despite all of these similarities, one teacher can be completely absorbed in her tasks and enjoys mastering challenges, while the other teacher might experience increasing doubts as to whether, she is up to the challenge. She may feel emotionally exhausted, show signs of cynicism, suffering from that reduced personal accomplishment. In other words, while the first teacher experiences flow at work, the other teacher is suffering from burnout symptoms. And this kind of example just shows you that individuals can perceive and approach objectively identical tasks and demands at work in completely different ways. While some people seem to handle challenging situations easily, other people may have different coping methods to deal with high job demands and lead them to suffering from those burnout symptoms. And I use this to really show you that in order for you as a teacher to experience flow, you have to create a system that works best for you. Each of us is going to do tasks a little bit differently. But if you're experiencing overwhelm, I want to empower you to recognize that you are the captain of your ship. My principal uses this analogy and I just love it. So I'm going to go with it here. But you have the choice to create your own flow. Doing things in the same old way, ways that just don't work, that's the definition of insanity. And I don't want you to be insane. Okay. Flow is that magical state where everything seems to fall into place. It's when you're fully immersed in what you're doing and time seems to fly by without you even noticing. Okay. We often experience this flow when we're in the zone of optimal experience. And it's really essential that we cultivate it both for ourselves, but for our students as well. Flow is what's occurring when there's a balance between the challenge of a task and then your individual skill level. So, this balance is giving us a sense of control over our actions, our environment. It reduces that feeling of powerlessness that can contribute to burnout. Let me know if you've experienced that. But flow, having these flow experiences provide that sense of fulfillment and enjoyment in our teaching career. When teachers can actually find that joy, they're more likely to experience job satisfaction, which is a protective factor against that overwhelm, that stress, and that burnout. So, before we can go into optimizing our automation system and our workflow, I want you to first recognize the things in your teaching career that bring you joy. Drop it in the comments. What are some of the things that you actually like about teaching? What are those things? Drop them in the comments. For me personally, I love watching those light bulbs go off. Like when I have a student that I've worked with and they're struggling with something and they feel like they can't do something, I love to watch those light bulbs go off. That gives me joy. Kristen says laughing with students. Yeah, the communication, that engagement, that relationship part. Gigi says, yes, light bulbs, totally agree. Somebody says, laughing with students, inside jokes with my class. Exactly. And if we think about it, those are the things that we need to prioritize. Those are the tasks that you need to be able to do more frequently to experience flow. All those other things, while some of them are important to your job description, those are not going to allow you to experience flow. And Erica put 100 there. Yeah. It's not going to bring you into that state of flow. So when we look at your tasks, your SOPs, noticing, hey, I don't get any joy out of this. And it's not a really good use of my skills as a professional. Those might be the things that you either need to automate, delegate, or in some cases, even eliminate. So I've talked about before how most teachers, they don't get a whole lot out of grading a bunch of papers. I mean, I guess there's some teachers that may see grading as a way that maybe they see how well they're teaching, so they might get a little joy. Um, but most teachers don't really like the active grading. If you like the active grading, go ahead and tell me about it because I got to know which one of my friends has lost their marbles. But automating the grading process through maybe like gamified experiences kind of kills two birds with one stone because the students are able to enter a state of flow, sometimes like when the game is fun or it creates competition, maybe. And then lots of those plug and play options like Kahoot, Blookit, 99 Math, those will do the active grading for you and then offer your students that experience. But when we have plug and play for grading, and then another for lesson planning, and then another for communication, and then another for management, it's just another thing on our plates. We're overwhelming not only ourselves, but possibly like our students, our parents of our students as well, when they don't work systematically together, where there's all these different places for all these different tasks. So, systemizing this automation process, that is where the real magic happens because we're able to combine the power of automation with our standard operating procedures. So imagine having a well defined SOP for handling grading and parent communication. Then, with a click of a button, you're getting a grade, you're seeing that progress, and then those automated emails are sent out to help keep parents informed and engaged. That is the beauty of automation. It's bringing those SOPs to life and making them more effective. So, why do we get out of flow in the classroom? Well, I mean, there's a lot of internal and external forces that kind of impact this. But number one is just interruptions, constant interruptions, whether it's from your students or from your colleagues, your friends knocking on your door, or administrative tasks. Those are disrupting your focus and your flow. So I want you to be thinking about those things that might be disrupting your flow. Another thing that can disrupt your flow is excessive workload. We've already talked about this, that job creep that we're experiencing. An overwhelming workload with too many responsibilities, that can lead to that cognitive overload that we've been talking about. And it hinders our ability to stay in that flow state. Then, not to mention, there's also that lack of time. When you feel rushed or you don't have enough time to plan and prepare, that can prevent you from fully immersing yourself into your teaching. Um, Having unclear goals. Like if you have a lack of clarity in your lessons or your goals in general, that can make it really challenging to stay focused and engaged during your instruction or in your classroom. If you have classroom management issues, dealing with behavior, disruptions, lack of discipline, that can create those distractions that are disrupting your workflow. But I want to mention also a lack of challenge. If teaching tasks are monotonous or too routine, you can feel the struggle to kind of find the challenge needed to really experience flow experiences. Inadequate resources is another one. If we don't have access to teaching materials, to technology or support, that can hinder that flow. Being in a negative work environment, a toxic, unsupportive work environment, that can lead to stress, anxiety, making it really difficult to achieve that flow. If you have personal issues, I know that I have experienced that as well. Just having those personal issues going on, that's a flow blocker, and it's really impacting your ability to fully be present and fully engaged. And then the last one I'll talk about is that lack of autonomy, which I see a lot with teachers with burnout, feeling restricted in your ability to make decisions or not having control over your teaching methods. That can hinder your flow experiences. And you know what having an automated system for your SOPs does? It minimizes these flow blockers because you have the ability to create the system that works for you. You have more say, more autonomy to automate, delegate, or eliminate the tasks that don't bring you joy and that insert more time, more energy, and more focus onto what does. So, what does this look like? Well, one example might be just an automated assignment grading, using that digital platform or that grading software that automatically grades multiple choice or standardized questions and then allows you to focus on just providing that personalized feedback. See, it's just two individual steps. It's not something long, not something huge. Another one could be automated parent communication, setting up that automated email or that messaging system to send out regular updates, regular reminders, maybe upcoming events, homework, student progress, and then automated lesson planning. if you can utilize some digital lesson planning tools that can auto populate information into your curriculum and your standards, that's going to save you time and ensure that your lessons are aligned with your learning objectives. Erica says she loves to use Google Forms and Canvas quizzes for this reason because it saves so much time when grading. I love that. I love it. I love automated grading. But I hear some of you right now, like you're like, what does this look like? What do all these steps that we've done in this boot camp, how's this going to like help me? Drop in the comments if you're still with me. Put tell me now. Type it in the comments, but tell me now. Because I need y'all with me. I need y'all to keep on talking to me. Hey, Denise, so glad you're here. Okay. After I created my SOP for my classroom, I had multiple SOPs. I gave you some ideas for those back in day one, but I really took a look at what brought me joy. I really started researching how to do away with that other junk. Okay. And I had to really look at what was a good use of my professional skill set. So, what were my strengths and what were my weaknesses? I mentioned yesterday that I look at automation in 4 different types. Plug and play, which we focused on here. You've probably used some automated grading through things like what Erica was talking about, and through like things like Kahoot and Blooket, things like that. But then I look at it from Google automations. I look at project management systems, and then I look at more advanced automations. And I think about it in these different types because that's how I progressed through each area over time to create this robust system that's able to work in the background so I can focus on my students, their growth, but also my well being and my job satisfaction. Initially, this is what I started out with. I recognized I had a problem during virtual teaching. Now, if you haven't heard me talk about this before, I was responsible for teaching completely virtually, special education, both resource and co taught and modified curriculum. That's 2 separate teaching jobs. I just hit y'all. I was responsible for a lot of students and ensuring that they were making progress. But if you taught during the pandemic, students were not always engaged. And that was for different reasons, I'm sure. But this led to a lot of my students having missing assignments and not being able to keep them engaged or create the, curriculum that needed to be created, right? That's what initially led me to having to share missing assignments with parents. And what I had to do is I had to send an email every student and every parent individually. I told y'all yesterday, emails always made me nervous because I really wasn't sure like what my tone was going to be, how my tone was going to be received by parents, or if they were going to be received by students positively. So that was a lot of time spent writing the same email every single time. Over the course of about 2 weeks' time, what I did was I created a system that would work over and over again without me spending more time, more brain power each time I had to send this. The first was just by creating email templates. I crafted the email template and what I wanted it to say. Now, what you can do is you can head over to ChatGPT and get help with this. So, using that prep prompt framework, you can ask ChatGPT to help you with some of those templates you know that you're going to need. So thinking about your workflow, you can go into ChatGPT, ask it to write that email for you, and go ahead. And the next part that I did was I put those templates into my Google workspace, into my email service provider. And so once I created those and I housed them in my email server, all I had to do was just change a name or the assignments, and bada bing, bada boom, it was done. But still, lots of time spent clicking and clicking and clicking. And so I'm having to reevaluate what's going to make this more efficient. So then I added a step. I wanted to be able to enter the information into a Google form and then send out emails to parents and students with just the click of a button. Here's that Google step that I was telling you about. And that's where my missing assignments auto email resource that I created was born. And I'll share that with you really quickly so you guys can kind of see what that looks like. So all it is a Google form. And then it would send this document in an email to the parent and the student. And it's worked fantastically for a long, long time. But when we went into, even though I use this throughout virtual teaching, when I moved back into face to face, this process, this SOP then changed to where I was able to give this over to my students. My students were filling out their forms with me while I conferenced with them. So, what it did was it led them to taking more ownership over their learning. And then I became more of the motivator or more of the facilitator for this. So if you doubt that this type of thing works, maybe data is going to help you. After incorporating this method, I saw an increase in parent participation and collaboration from 22% of parents that I worked with to 93% of parents, because once a week, my students and I did this process together. At the end of one quarter, the first quarter that I did this, when we came back to school, I saw an increase in student work completion from 48% of completed work to 89% of completed work. And for me, I also saw better relationships with my students. I saw better relationships with their parents. And I feel like that's immeasurable because that completely shifted the climate of my classroom. And it released some of that pressure and some of that cognitive burden that I was experiencing. And so moving through this method is how I was able to take control over something that was bringing me down, that was taking up my time. And while initially it took some time to set up, I get that back every single week that I use this, and my students get better outcomes because of it. Now, I didn't stop there. I kept going. I kept going because obviously sending missing assignments home to students, that's not my only problem. And with every solution comes a whole new problem, right? I needed something more comprehensive as a special educator. This is when I moved into a project management platform. I moved into Airtable, which I'm going to link in the comments for you guys. That way you can head over and be able to see this so that you'll know what Airtable is and it'll be available for you. But when I started using this, it was completely a game changer. I can't send it right now. I'll send it later. It was a complete game changer. Because I was familiar with Google Sheets. Like I said, I was starting to use Google. I was starting to use all these different things. But then I had a way to utilize this as more of a database. So it made it more efficient by using different types of software. And I chose one thing at a time to automate. So first, it was just my intake process. When I got a student, I would upload their information into the database to track the reevaluation of their annual review dates, their reevaluation, so I could see them at a glance. So this is what that initially looked like. So if I open the form, can you guys see this? I think you guys can. Nope, maybe not. Let me stop the screen. Let me show you a different screen so you guys can see it. Erica says that email templates are a huge time saver, but I'll definitely be using ChatGPT when I'm not sure how to word an email to parents, especially revolving around behavior. Yeah. I mean, that is a huge, huge, huge thing. So let me share my screen so you guys can see what this looks like. I'm just going to share my window. That might be easier. Okay. So initially what I did was I took in, let me make sure you guys can see this. Yes. So this is what it looks like. If I want to open the form, you can see it here. But basically, all I did was take in that information that would upload their information into the database to track that. And then I took it a step further and I created a way for this database to send automated emails. So in Airtable, which I'll fix this really quick so you guys can see this. Here's the Airtable link if you need it. But when I went into Airtable, they have automations available. So I was able to create different automations to send emails. Okay. And then I was able to create these for me too. I chose one thing at a time to automate. Intake process, and then it would send out automated emails to parents to schedule meetings. It streamlined this process so I didn't have to focus on it. I added in automated reminders for me to create specific things, maybe in the program that we used for IEPs, automated emails to general education teachers to get that input for the IEP through a form. So each one of these tabs here at the top was able to house all of that information. I could take down observation data. It was able to put the student and it connected to that specific student inside of this so that I could see what type of information. It has all of the information in there for that student, including their exceptionalities, their accommodations. Everything was housed in this one spot. Okay. And so this kind of gave me a way to really be able to put all of this together with no coding, just a simple step by step by step. And each time I added a new step, I just reevaluated. I refined to make the SOP or the process basically work for me in the background while I did what I loved, which is teach, right? And so when I realized another problem, I realized I was, switching applications all the time. I had a place to take attendance in one platform. I had a way of tracking data in another. I was grading in another, providing my students with learning in another. And it was not efficient. So I moved into a more advanced automation platform that would connect different applications or interfaces together that allowed automations to work more efficiently and comprehensively. So when my students played in a game on quizzes, I wanted that data already in a template that I used for data tracking. So I connected them together with that advanced automation so they were all in one place. So what we want to do is we want to be able to move into using these steps together. We have our SOP. We can use the artificial intelligence for one of those steps, but how can we create this into a robust system that pretty much works for us in the background so we don't have to do those extra steps, all those extra screens, all those extra tabs? Erica says, my school wants us to use Canvas messages for all communication with students and parents. Does Airtable work with Canvas messages too, or only in regular emails? So it's a really good question, and I can answer that. Airtable does not work specifically with that, but advanced automations do. And that's something that I teach within my course on how you can do that to really get those to work together so that you're not having to go one place to another place. So what we want to do is we want to be able to getting these steps to work together. We have our SOP, we have that artificial intelligence, all of that. So how can we create this into that robust system? Well, there's a lot of plug and play options available, but here's the thing that happens over time. We just have another step, right? We just have more stuff on our plate. We're adding and taking off and adding and taking off. We need these to work together seamlessly. So we have to choose one way of doing things, and then we can refine it as we go. Denise asked, does Airtable or can Airtable be used with a personal email? And the answer is yes, it's connected to my Gmail account. So all of my information was sent from my Gmail account through my school account to parents, teachers, all of that. So it was all connected through that. And you can actually use it with multiple Gmail accounts. So you can just choose which one you want it to come from, if you want it from your personal or if you want it from your school account. Automation's great and everything, right? But it's not the end all be all when it just becomes one more thing on your to-do list. Okay. Like the whole idea of this is we want to bust job creep right in its tracks. We don't want to continue adding more things to our full plates. We want to squash switching through multiple applications and integrate them into a system so that they work together. So we implement automations into these systems. These systems give us a clear structure and a process for using that automation effectively rather than just adding those things to our to-do list or another app on our thousands of tabs. I can't be the only one who has 1,000 tabs open at any given time. Drop it in the comments. Do you have 1,000 tabs open too? Please tell me I'm not the only one. So here are the steps that you can implement automations and systems and enter that state of flow. And I teach this way more in depth in my Automate Your Classroom program, but I use my Educare framework, which I came up with, and it follows how I created individualized education plans, but instead we call these Educare plans for, thank you. I'm so glad that I'm not the only one who has experienced 1,000 tabs. But the first thing we want to do is we want to evaluate. I'm telling you, it follows an individualized education plan. But we just want to identify the problem or the task that we want to automate. At the beginning of this, I asked you to kind of be thinking about what don't you like about teaching and what you like about teaching to kind of get you in this frame of thinking, okay? So start looking at your daily tasks and just identify one that is really repetitive, really time consuming, or you just hate it. Okay. And in the program, I give you some assessments to help you see what these really look like. But you can do this just by identifying it. What is the problem? Okay. App smashing. I've not heard of that. I've not heard of that terminology before. Number two is I want you to develop your system. So your SOP for that specific task. And research just automation tools. Once you have identified the task, look for automation tools that can help you complete it more efficiently. There are so many tools available online that can help you do this. I learned everything that I know from just research. And this way of doing things, I did it just by Googling. Okay. I don't want you to have to spend even more time overwhelming yourself even more, which is why I offer all of these steps and these step by steps and the automation tech vault inside of my program. So you don't have to do all that extra work, but all you have to do is just follow the steps and learn what you need to as you go. But you can do that. It's available for anybody. The third step is to utilize tools and resources that support you in your automation system. So inside of my program, there is a full, always growing automation tech vault to help you choose your individual path for this. So you might just want to do plug and play. If you don't have a lot of tech knowledge, don't start out with advanced, automations. Don't do that. You want to start out with something very small and just do it over time so it's not overwhelming. Jennifer said app smashing is when you use multiple apps together. Yeah, so basically you're integrating them so they're working together as a system. The third step is to again use these tools, use those resources that are going to support you in your automation system. And then the fourth step is to change your mindset. You're more than likely one of those teachers who tries to do it all. And that's really not benefiting you. If I'm completely honest with you and I give you a little tough love right now, that's not benefiting you to do everything all the time. In fact, it's probably aiding in burnout symptoms. Okay. So changing your mindset is a huge part of creating the system that's going to work and going to allow you the time, the energy, and the flow back and bring it back into your teaching career. The fifth step is to accommodate and adapt. You want to be able to test and then refine everything that you're doing. So once you've kind of selected a tool and you're using it and you've entered it into your workflow, you want to start experimenting with it. You want to see how you can automate more of your task. Test that automation and then just refine it until you're happy with the results. Like I told you, I started out with one small thing and it increasingly got larger over time. So it wasn't overwhelming to me. It became something that was giving me back tons and tons of time and making my classroom climate better than ever before. And I want to kind of put this in here too. When you do this, document that process. Once you've kind of refined the automation, document the process step by step in an SOP or using that Tango application, because this is going to help you to understand your process better, but it's also going to be more useful for you if you need to automate something that's similar in the tasks, right? For your future. And then the last step is to reevaluate. So once you've done this, integrate that automation into a larger system. So start to kind of zoom out to be able to see what is working and what's not in other areas so that you can make it more efficient and effective over time. Okay. Um, okay, sorry. Erica says she lost connection. So no worries, the replay is available. But once you've done this, being able to do this into the larger system, that could be like using other tools, other processes to make the automation more effective. It could involve training other people how to use the automation in their work. Automation is not a replacement for you. It's just a tool that's going to help you be more effective. By implementing automation in systems, we can use it to streamline our work and enter that state of flow. And if you're like, okay, Brittany, that's a lot. That's a lot. Let me know. Miranda says going to have to watch the replay. Um, I'll be straight with you. I'll tell you, it can be a lot. It can, especially if you've never done anything like this before, or if this is a brand new concept. But I'm telling you, I literally automate everything from locking my door when I leave the house in the morning to my lights, to my email, to my kids' schedule. Because if you didn't know, we have 5 kids. It's very busy around here. I don't want you to sit there and think this sounds like a godsend, but I don't know where to start, or even try like Googling a million different things, because that's time consuming. That's leading you down the path of overwhelm and frustration. Like, I can't teach you everything you need to know about automation in 3 days. I just can't. But I want to get you started on this journey because I know how impactful it can be for your mental health, for your job satisfaction, all of that. And it's just not possible. And like I mentioned on day one, I don't believe that there are these cookie cutter solutions to everybody's problem. So if I tell you a specific tool, it might not fit into your workflows. It might not fit into your SOPs. As a special educator, like, I believe that each part needs to be individualized specifically for you and your unique classroom. And that's why I created my Automate Your Classroom program. This is the complete task management and automation system that takes your classroom from overwhelmed to organized in 6 weeks or less. And I want to gift one of you this scholarship to join me and 40 other teachers right now. Like, I want you to be able to choose the automation path that best suits you. Maybe it's just plug and play for a while. Maybe you want to optimize automations inside of your Google Workspace, or try a project management system like Airtable, or do those more advanced automations. I help you choose what is best for you inside of there. I help you assess what your needs are, what your strengths are, what's going to work best in your classroom. So if you're ready to get back 10 to 15 hours of your work week and stop working those nights and weekends, you can enter that state of flow that we talked about. I invite you to join that wait list before the doors officially open tomorrow so that you can get on the wait list only discount. It will be sent tonight. So if you're watching the replay, sorry, you kind of missed out on that if you didn't already get on the wait list. But you can get on the wait list at teachingmindbodyandsoul.com/automate your classroom wait list. Boop, there we go. So you can see it. Tomorrow at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, I will be going live one more time for this boot camp to do a live Q&A. So I'm going to answer all of your automation questions. I'm going to answer any questions you might have about the program, if it's right for you. If you have any questions about automation, maybe it's Airtable, maybe it's different type of project management system, Google, plug and play, whatever you've got, drop them into the comments, or I'm going to have a post up later that's going to take those questions. If you can't make it live, I want to be able to answer those questions for you. And I'm going to help you choose what automations that are going to make this back to school the best one yet. It's going to reduce that overwhelm and burnout this school year. So at the end of the live tomorrow, I'm going to be drawing a winner for the scholarship. So make sure that you complete each day's homework to be entered in to win that. You must be present on the live in order to win. So make sure that you set those alarms and all that jazz for you to not miss out. Okay. Today's homework is to choose one specific area to focus on. Okay. One specific area. And I want you to write or type out that workflow for that area, that SOP that is not working. Okay. Then I want you to highlight the repetitive, the mundane, or the task you just don't like inside of that workflow. Okay. You're going to write that step by step for that workflow, and then highlight where you're blocking your flow with that. Okay. what piece could be automated? Even if it's like you don't even know how that would be, just highlight that. If you want to be able to automate that or delegate that or something to that nature, highlight that. And maybe it's your parent communication. Maybe it's emailing. Maybe it's behavior management. Maybe it's lesson planning. Maybe it's curriculum mapping. I don't know. Whatever your specific area is, map that out. This is going to help you see where those inconsistencies are and where your breakdown is occurring to really help you to develop your plan of action moving forward this school year. Bonus points. Hey, if you see someone who has a breakdown and you know how to automate it or you know how to delegate it or eliminate that highlighted task on their workflow, comment. Like if you're looking in those comments and you see somebody, I want you to comment and share with them. Like the whole purpose of this resilient teacher community is to uplift and support each other. And I believe that when we collaborate and work together, we can really start to see some big changes and move that needle forward faster. So if you want more support, I do want to remind you that I also have the podcast, the Resilient Teacher podcast. It is available for streaming on all major podcasting platforms. And this is more free support. And I love connecting with and talking with you guys. So you can always DM me or message me because my goal is just to help support and empower you and more teachers across the world. So get that homework in. And I will see you guys tomorrow live for that Q&A. Feel free to drop your questions in the chat here. I'll answer them tomorrow. I hope you guys have a wonderful self-care Sunday. And thank you again for joining me today. Bye.